Math 7, week 5. We're going to do the unit test for getting ready for fractions, decimals, and percentages, and the unit test for getting ready for statistics and probability. You ready? Let's go. Which of the following options have the same value as 70% of 80? Okay, 70% of 80. So how do we find that? We multiply 0.7, which is 70% as a decimal, times 80. But how can we think of 0.7 as a fraction? That would be 7/10. And that's pretty easy because that's how you say it, right? You say 7/10. So we can also write it like that. So, but not, 70 hundredths is the same as 7/10, right? Because if you add a 0 to both of them, then it's equivalent. So A is right. 0.7 times 0.8. No, because we're not pointing the 8 there. This one's right. And this one's right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 50 of the 50 US states, 4 have names that start with a W. That's right. Because I know my 50 nifty United States. Do you? Wisconsin, Wyoming, West Virginia, Washington. Look at that. Okay. What percentage of the US states have names that start with W? Oh, that's just 4 out of 50. But they don't want a fraction. They want a percentage. So how do we change that fraction into a percentage? We take the 4, the numerator goes on the inside, and the denominator goes on the outside. And obviously 50 does not go into 4. We could add a 0, but 50 doesn't even go into 40. So we have to add another 0. So I put a 0 up there for that. 50 goes into 400 8 times. 8 times 50 is 400. Subtract and we get a remainder of 0. And so our decimal equivalent, 4/50ths, has a decimal equivalent of 0.08. And what would that be as a percentage? Is equivalent to 8. Oh, let me say it like this. It's 8 out of 100, right? 8 hundredths. And that means it's 8%. Percent means out of 100. To visit his grandmother, Michael takes a motorcycle, 3.85 kilometers, and a horse, 3.32 kilometers. In total, the journey takes 50.54 minutes. How many kilometers did his journey land in total? Oh, just add the kilometers together. You could do that. Line up your decimal places. I haven't talked about lining up the decimal places. So first of all, that's a distractor, 3.85 and 3.32. There. Then make sure when you add and subtract, you line up your decimal places. You can do that. I'm not doing that. Anastasia is grocery shopping with her father and wonders how much shopping is left to do. We already have 60% of the items on our list, her father says. Anastasia sees 12 items in the cart. How many groceries are on the list? Okay, this leads me to a special point that I'd like to make now. Percent times whole equals part. It's a little equation I like to think of. So 60% is 0.6. We don't know the whole, so that's going to be W. But we know the part is 12. It says we have 60%. Anastasia says we have 12. So they have part of their groceries, but not the whole thing. Now, this is a one-step equation. And in 6th grade, you should have learned that you divide both sides in order to solve it. It was a fly that's bothering me. All right, so 12 divided by 0.6. Goodness, 12. It's 20. There we go. So they got 20 total groceries to get. They gotta get 40% more, which is 8 more. All right, you can do that one. Orla and Eduardo each looked at strands of their hair under the microscope and measured the diameter. Orla's strand was 5 thousandths centimeters in diameter, and Eduardo's strand was 12 thousandths centimeters in diameter. How much greater was the diameter of Eduardo's hair? So when we want to find how much greater something is, we subtract. How much longer did something take? You would subtract, right? How much greater is something, you subtract. So let's put the 0.012 on top and 0.005 on the bottom. Just like adding, line up your decimal points. And it's just 7. And so it's 7 thousandths. Wow, they like this question. It's a good question. How far is it that Rosa is building a guitar? Yeah, all right. The second fret is 33 and 641 thousandths millimeters from the first fret. The third fret is 31.749 millimeters from the second fret. All right, so add those two distances together and you'll get, add those two distances. You can do it. Luke and Matthew ran a lemonade stand. They agreed that Matthew would get 60% of the profit because the lemonade stand was his idea. They made a profit. Okay, so try that percent times whole equals part. See if you get it, and then you can post in the organizer if you're still confused about that one. Now we're going to do get ready for statistics and probability. Very important subject. And it really deserves its own course, Golly, this fly. All right. What is the shape of the distribution? Left-tailed, symmetric, right-tailed. Okay. So there are 3 shapes that we're going to talk about. Left-tailed is called skew left. Right-tailed is called skew right. And symmetrical. So write those down. I'm going to draw the shape, what it looks like. So sometimes we have a bunch of data on the lower end and then some data as we go higher. Sometimes we have a bunch of data on the high end. Hopefully, everybody did their homework. Hopefully it's right-tailed, how many people did not get enough sleep? Hopefully that's left-tailed. And then a lot of data is symmetrical, which means the maximum is in the middle. And these things are approximate. So there could be, it's not like, oh, actually, there's one little point messing it all up. No, we just kind of round it out. So this one has a maximum on the right side. It has a tail, we say, on the left. So it's left-tailed. Skew left. This is skew right, you see, because the maximum's on the left. Oh, isn't there an outlier? Yes, there is. You see that little point way away from the rest of the data? There you go. And a cluster from 4 to 6. So let's count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's a gap here and then a little cluster right there. Determine, okay, so statistical, non-statistical. So statistical means you can use that information. You can use that question to gather data. Yeah, more than one. So how tall am I right now? That is not statistical because I'm only one height right now. But how tall have I been over time? That's statistical. We can gather, we can look at my height over time. Does it typically rain more in United States or in Brazil? This is statistical because it says typically, and we can look at the rain patterns over time in both countries, and we can get, make a conclusion. Okay. So you can do this one. It's not symmetrical. It's got a big tail on the left side. Okay, so you could do that one. Whoa, doesn't count. Let me do this. How many hairs are in Gretchen the gorilla's right armpit? So there's only one answer to that, and you're gonna have to look at Gretchen's armpit to figure it out. So although you'll have to be doing some work, it's not statistical. Okay, you can do that one. My gosh, I keep getting these right. You can do that one. It's amazing. All right. You can probably do those now. All right, so go for it. Week 5, you got this. And then we got one more week.